Vitale is back. He's
back.
back and he's bad. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, Henry. Nice to see you.
Great to see you again. And we haven't talked in years. You know,
It's been a while.
It's been a while since you've been on the show, and your book came out.
Yeah.
It's still selling good?
Yeah, we're doing good.
Awesome.
We're doing
Because
good.
that's like the first thing I wanted to talk to you about. There was a couple stories I really liked. First of all, before we get to that, kind of give the viewers a roundup of who you've worked with. You know.
Oh, my.
I know. I see. You don't need to remember them all. You know, just a few different ones.
Well, out of the whole bar scene,
Yeah.
the clubs and bar scene, Ted Nugent scooped me out of the bar scene.
Now, how did that come about? How
Well,
did
he
you
was
find it?
he was looking for a new band. He came down into Kent. I was living in Kent, and there was a lot of work up in Kent back then, and a lot of clubs and a lot of bands. James Gang, and Phil Kege and the Glass Harp. Everybody was playing in Kent. So a lot of places to work. So I was playing in a bar band up there, and he came into town. And we didn't even know he came into town. It's hard to miss.
I guess.
But he came into a club, and he must have liked what he heard, and he got a hold of me and hired me, and I went out with him. He got me out of the bar scene, which I appreciated, and on a national.
And that's a lucky
scene.
thing.
Yeah, I mean that most of this business is like that. I mean, of course you have to have talent and all that, but half of it is that, and the other half is being at the right place at the right time. That's
Sure it is.
It's
Sure
never
it is.
changed. It's always been the same deal.
Yeah.
And I went out and toured with him for a while nationally, and ran into Joe Walsh on the road, and we had talked then, and then we started putting that together, and did a whole bunch of stuff with Joe, and then went over to Neil Young and Stephen Stills and Crosby, Stills Nash and all
now,
that.
that's a leap. You know,
Well,
leap in
just
styles
like
and
I say,
everything, don't you think?
you have to be at the right place at the right time, and they hired me, and I did 35 years with Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Wow.
And also within there, when they were taking a break, I went off, and Joe brought me into the Eagles, and that was a great gig, and I'll never forget that time. And did some Peter Frampton stuff, and different.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
A lot of different people. Danny Fogelberg, I did a lot of work with. Dan, miss him a lot. He's
the leader of the band.
Great
I love
guy,
that song.
great
That was a great
artist,
tune.
and so you come full circle. Now I'm back with Joe. We've been touring all year with Bad Company. And,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Now, are you Barnstorm or what?
It's just Joe Walsh.
It's just Joe Walsh.
Joe Walsh.
And you're the
solo.
guy in the band.
And I'm in the band, and we have more to do yet this year, and then next year we're gonna go and do a bunch of stuff with Bad Company, Europe and Down Under, and a bunch of states stuff.
Wow.
So
Very cool.
yeah, he's keeping busy. I'm glad we're having a good time.
Now, did you do? This is with Joe Walsh. Did you do the boat thing, the recording?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. That's the story I wanted to hear,
Joe
because that's a
Walsh-
nutty thing.
Ever since the late '60s, with a group called the Band, which we all know and
Yep.
love, they did music from Big Pink, and that was recorded in a house. And that Joe really, really liked that whole concept, and he always wanted to do that. Although his, engineers and producers hated the idea, because they want a studio where it's traditional,
Right.
window room microphones, and Joe didn't want to do that. He wanted to try it. So we did several remote kind of records, but
Right.
the one you're talking about was a record called "But Seriously, Folks," an
Right,
album,
I remember
which
that.
had "Life's Been Good" on it.
Right.
And we also have a song that we wrote because of where we recorded. It's called "Theme from Boat Weirdos," and we were the boat weirdos at Plantation Harbor in Florida, and all the yachting and fishermen people down there, they looked at us like, and they called
couldn't figure
they
that
called
out
us
at
the
all.
boat weirdos. So we wrote a song called "Theme from Boat Weirdos," and
Now,
Anyway,
how big was the boat?
the boat was a 110-foot yacht. It was
Wow.
a beautiful boat, and
then-
the living room, which is it's like 30 by 20, it's big. That was our recording room, and then every boat has a back deck with a window. So
Right.
and a canvas thing that covered everything, and it covered like a enclosure. So Bill Simzik, our producer, he set up his studio, his board, and all his stuff
Right.
on the deck out there.
Oh, so he
And
was
he had
separated.
and he had a
Okay.
window and everything.
So you
And
could see you guys.
And we were in the,
Sweet.
And so we recorded some of that album out there, and we were on generators. We were out in the ocean, and we thought that
Now, was it still enough, or was it?
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. It was a big boat. I mean, we went on, nice day. It was like glass. The ocean was like glass. We went out and
which ocean?
Atlantic. It was off the coast of Florida.
Okay.
So, and we were concerned about any kind of noise or hum on a technical level because of the generators and all that, but it was all good. And so, what was really amazing is when we brought all those tapes back to the mainland, and went into a real studio and we put those tapes on. They sounded amazing. And it was, so, and then, a few years later, Joe and I and a couple of the guys, we went to do an album called You Name It, You Bought It, You Name It, and we did on Catalina Island. Another remote kind of thing he wanted to do. He loves the idea of that, and it's really fun. Actually, it's very cool because you have no distractions.
True.
And your head is in the record, in the music, and like I say, it's not like L.A. where everybody in the world drops in. They want to see the session.
Want to watch you do the work.
And it's really cool. You stay very focused because there's nothing else to do, and you stay focused, and you're together a lot, and you write, and it's just a really good vibe. It's really cool. So I like recording like that.
And what do you think about, because it's come to that as far as recording equipment's smaller.
It's much easier.
You can record in a
now
home.
We did it when it was hard.
You got real gear,
16-track
machines, and
Now you can bring a laptop
and get something great.
A few pieces of outboard gear, and
a few pieces of gear, and you can record.
Do it in your hotel room,
and you're not watching a clock,
right?
Which is the real. I mean.
But the whole idea of remote recording, Joe really likes, and I appreciate it. It's really good. It's really, we got a lot of great music done like that.
Man, that's clever. That's clever. The other story was with the Eagles, and you were playing drums, and you did a fill that wasn't quite just right. You remember that story?
It wasn't. It wasn't wrong.
It was really good.
It wasn't even whether it was good or bad is beside the point.
Well, tell me the story.
The point was it was a little too fancy for the Eagles, and Don Henley really likes to, and I like this thinking. He likes to, people pay a lot of money for tickets. They want to hear the music, they want to hear the band, and they want to hear it like they're used to on the record, right? So he's real funny. He was always funny about that. About you guys play the parts. We want this record, and they do, and they sound so good. They would sound just like the records, and it would be really, good for the audience. They got what they paid for.
Right.
And so I, having been in a lot of more jam bands, and figured I'd, go off on my own and play a drum fill on a song called Those Shoes. And some of the guys in the band, they liked it. They would turn around and they were like, "Hey, that's pretty cool," because they weren't used to hearing that drum fill.
Boy, it probably woke them up.
And later that night, Don Henley called me up and he says, "Come on up here, Joe." And I said, "Okay, this is weird because we didn't really hang out that much,
Yeah.
And he kind of stayed to himself,
Yeah.
And so I go up there and he opens the door, and chain's still on the door. And he just opened the door.
Oh, he didn't even open it.
Well, he was in
Understood.
a robe.
I understand why.
He was in his robe and, his Ritz-Carlton robe or whatever. And he said, "Hey, Joe Bob." He called me Joe Bob because he's from Texas. He said, "Hey, Joe Bob." He said, "That drum fill in Those Shoes." I thought he was going to compliment.
You thought,
this is so cool. And he looked at me and he went, "Don't do that." And then he said, "Have a nice night."
That was it?
That was it. He's like, he's the boss.
There you go.
One of the bosses.
Yeah, you want
but
a gig?
The rest of the story is even more funny. The next day, Glenn Fry, and rest his soul, Glenn Fry came up to me with a couple of hundreds or something. He was peeling off, and he goes, "Hey, play that song again." Play that fill again.
Oh, no.
And I went, no, you don't have enough. That ain't enough zeros on those.
No, that's funny.
That was funny, and so needless to say, I didn't play that fill again.
But again, and that's why you survived this long.
No, that's
you work for somebody. Yeah,
he's my boss. Unfortunately, in groups like that, I didn't really know who the boss was, and like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, I had 3 bosses. And that used to get a little hairy at times because one guy would say to play it this way, and one guy would say, no, I want you to play it. Then all I would do is just not play and say, one of you guys figure out what you want me to do, and I'll do it. But
Good
now
call.
you have to respect your boss, and you're working for them, and it's their songs, their music. Me and Joe have a little bit nicer relationship as far as Yeah, he's my boss, but we've known each other since the late '60s, and now we're in our late '60s, so we're friends first, and of course we respect each other's musicianship, and when he wants me to play a certain way, I do, and he asks me stuff too, do you like this guitar sound or whatever, we're mutual about a lot of that stuff, so it's a different relationship.
Yeah.
And and usually bands are that friendly. Most bands are that friendly. But some guys you work for, they're funny about that. I don't blame them.
They always look like serious guys, though. I mean, you could even tell it, even though.
But you got to understand, there's a lot of pressure on them guys. Their name is on the marquee. People spend a lot of money to see that name on the marquee, and they want it a certain way. And you have to appreciate that. You have to respect that. And you have to do that, or you won't have the job.
No.
And I think that goes in any line of work. You have to respect your boss, and musicians are a little friendlier, I guess, than an office job or something.
Well, because we need everybody to like us.
Yeah,
I mean, that's part of the job.
It's part of the job.
Yeah.
And no, we all get along, But there's some funny stuff that goes on backstage.
We nuts. Yeah, musicians are crazy.
It's funny.
But it's a stress of the job too. You have to lighten it up.
Yeah, you gotta lighten it up, or you'll crash and burn out there.
Oh yeah.
You can't take this serious.
Yeah, you really. Yeah.
I mean, it's serious for a couple hours a night.
Now, we were talking about the luck factor. That sometimes you have to be in the right place at the right time and have the skills. I mean, you can't not have the skills. You have
to have the skills.
Yeah. So there is. You do have to learn something. So what would you advise for a kid starting out? He wants to be a drummer.
I give it the same advice that my father gave me. My father was a musician, and my father used to preach this. He played gigs, my dad, and he used to say, listen, they hired you to do a job, and it's your job to entertain. And your job is not to entertain hundreds of people. Your job is to entertain. So if there's one person out there or 10 people, the old saying.
It's my
and
theory,
that's old school, and that's the old entertainment, like it's like the license, the policy that you have to hold. And he always taught me to, no matter what, to do your job, put on a show, whatever you're doing out there, do it like there's 10,000 people out there, even if there's 100 people out there. We learned that early on when we toured with Kiss. A couple of gigs.
Yeah.
We didn't do too many gigs with them in the early 70s. Wasn't a very good match, with Joe Walsh and Kiss, but we did some festivals and stuff with them. But we did do some small clubs with them even when they were first starting out. And they were not too many people knew Kiss. They were just starting out. Nobody knew us. We were just starting out. And we would open the door to a building we're playing in, and it'd be like, it was a dump. The stage was too small. It smelled like beer, and the lights were terrible. PA was nothing. Anyway, and and we were like, okay, let's go, man.
Let's
rock
do the
on,
job.
let's do it. And Kiss would go to full makeup, full clothing, and they'd go on the stage and they'd do their thing. We'd look at them. There's like 20 people out there. Remember, they were just starting, and people didn't know who they were. Now there's like 20,000.
Yeah.
But and they had such a great career. But that was really inspiring to watch these guys. Like, man, these guys, no matter what, there's like 50 people out there, and they're doing this full-on show. And we looked at that, and it was inspiring.
I think so too.
To watch that, and they're like, yeah, great night, and it's like, okay, 50 people, but you know what? That meant something to us. We never forgot that.
And you got to keep your standards up, and you got to
And,
50 people could tell somebody.
We're fortunate now that when we look out there now, there's 10, 15, 20,000 people, but you know what? It's the same attitude.
Right.
You look at that like we're blessed. We're lucky. We're whatever you want to call it. but you look out there and you see that, and you're very thankful now. We don't take that for granted.
It's a
remember
gift.
Playing,
Somehow it's a gift. You know,
playing,
I mean, it's
playing for.
not that many people get to do it.
Well, but
when you look at the whole population,
you got to never forget that we did the same thing that we do now. We did the same thing in some dump or some dive, and with 50 people. And,
Yeah.
and you know, you should never forget that. That's my other
Never,
advice to
somebody
up-and-coming
starting out,
musicians or what have
set
you.
your standards high. Try to keep them there.
Always put on a show like that. You know, you're at Madison Square Gardens and it's packed. Or always keep that in your mind that some people out there paid money to see you, and that's important to give them a show. The other side of it is you never know who's in the audience.
There you go.
That's how I got.
There could
my
be 50 people, but the one person in there could help you is there.
JB's. There was about 15 people there. One of which was Ted Nugent, and he got me out of the clubs and got me on the road.
There you go.
And because I didn't go there and like 15 people.
Yeah, who cares?
No, I laid it down.
Man,
because that I remembered what my father said. And I didn't even know he was there. It wasn't like I was showing off or something.
No, you were doing your job like you always do your job.
I looked out and saw the same drunk college students that were there every night. But you know what? They were like, yeah, rock on, And so we just did our show, and I got a call 2 days later. So my advice is don't ever underestimate any venue. You never know who's going to be there. And
good advice.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Or if somebody's there that will lead to another job, and then somebody shows up at that one, and you never know. And you don't take these things lightly.
Because the whole luck factor is it's not going to be luck if you're not doing your best.
Right.
They're going to say, well, these guys stink.
If you don't have the talent, you're not going to be there anyway. But if you have the talent and you're on a stage and you're playing, you never know who's going to be there or what it will lead to. Somebody might know a friend of a friend or something and say, hey, you got to look at this band. And all of a sudden you might be interviewed for a record deal. I don't know. It's just, I always keep an open mind that anything can happen. I don't ever take anything for granted. So that's all I can really advise.
Well,
the rest of it is the music business.
Right.
Like
that's when it gets tough.
Kind of shaky.
It is. I mean, there's no security. There's no anything. For
Right.
you to survive this long is amazing, and,
I mean, there's a lot of guys my age still doing it, but we also have a common thread of thinking,
Right.
A lot of guys. I mean, I talked to Max Weinberg a bunch, and he says the same stuff, And February 9th, 1964, the Beatles on Ed Sullivan changed all of our lives. So many people my age have said that, and it's true. And we've always thought the same way. I hope that young musicians hear what we say sometimes and take that in as advice or like kind of live that way, because it sure worked for a lot of us, to keep that mindset, and not just look at YouTube and go, that's what I'm going to do. Well, how are you going to do that? You don't just do that.
You got to stop watching and start doing it.
Yeah.
And you probably still work on your chops and your stuff.
Every day.
Every day, right?
Every day.
That's something people don't realize either, that you got to increase your
I
skills
play every day.
Forever.
Right.
So do I. I play guitar every single day, whether I have gigs or not.
Even if it's in a half hour or 4 hours, it doesn't matter. Pick up your instrument and play it every day. And you'll be surprised that you'll learn something new every time you pick up an instrument, And I'm, an old guy, and I've been doing this for a long time. And you know what? I can't wait to learn the next new thing.
That's what it's all about.
It's attitude. It's attitude.
It keets you sharp.
It does.
Keeps you sharp.
Or we'll rust.
Yeah. I think Helen Hayes said that. If she said, "Why do you still work at your age?" And she goes, "If you rest, you rust." Yeah. So, yeah. So where do people now? You're working with Joe Walsh. Is this for the next couple of years, or this is amazing? This is awesome.
Well, we've been out. We went out last fall, and then took a little time off, and then we've been out since May now. And
like what venues?
We played all over the whole country. And here we sold out Blossom.
Nice.
And it was really a fun show. And Bad Company and Joe Walsh is such a good package. That's a great package. Yep. And Paul Rogers and them guys, they're so good. And we had a great time with them guys. It was a good package. And we were co-headlining, so one night we'd open and they'd close. The next night we'd
Nice.
we'd close and they'd open. It wasn't like a who's opening for
Yeah, who's who, yeah.
co-headlining, and it didn't matter because it's all the same show. And we actually liked opening because we could get out of there early.
Yeah, we're getting older now, so it's like, man, if it's
hop
an
on the
easy
bus
job,
and
yeah.
hit the next town. But it was really fun, and it was so fun and so successful that they want to do it again next
Nice.
year. So, and in bad companies, like they got so many hits, and Paul Rogers is just amazing,
Yeah.
incredible. And he still sings all those songs in the same key.
No kidding, because
Yeah.
I've heard it. Some
Only a
acts,
few guys do that. McCartney does it.
Yeah,
Actually, Walsh does it. And
does
some of
it,
those tunes are they're up
they're
there.
way up there.
Yeah.
So now, where can you find like Joe and you and online? I mean, just look up their names and see schedules and.
Yeah, all our tour is on Joe Walsh's site,
Okay,
which joewalsh.com.
Great.
And I think that's it.
well,
And
they'll find it.
there's two Joe Walshes online. It's him, the musician, and then there's the politician Joe Walsh.
Oh, yep,
which
that's right.
the musician Joe Walsh doesn't like very much. People mix up stuff that he says and all that. He's forever saying, "I didn't say that. That's the other guy."
That's the other, yeah.
And so, but we've got our. We're just finishing up. We've been out since May. We've done a lot of shows.
Wow.
And so we've got some more to do out west. And we end up in Aspen in a couple of weeks, and we come home, and then home for the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
and start up again first of the year.
Wow. Now, you do seminars too, don't you? Because this is kind of cool.
It's really fun.
And then there's like young guys come out because
Yeah.
this is another thing they should know about you.
Well, I'm a counselor at Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp.
Nice.
And there's a lot of us guys that do it, and when we can, we don't always have the time, or because they had a couple of camps this summer, but I was on tour, so there's a handful of guys. There's about 20 of us counselors and whoever can they can schedule in, they use. I've done about 12 camps, and that's really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Because a lot of
great people.
enthusiasm. I
Great
mean, they're
people.
there for the right reason, and so are you.
And they're anywhere
Yeah.
from beginners to way advanced. There's some serious players, and a lot of these people are they're not. I wouldn't call them hobbyists because they're more than that. But they
Yeah.
have regular kind of day gigs.
Right.
But they still play music. They're in bands. Some of them bring their 1959 Les Paul out of their mother's
Whoa.
closet to come to camp, and all the counselors that are the guitar players are like, "Hey, you want to sell that?"
Yeah.
They have no idea what they have, some of them, but I think they do.
Yeah.
And they realize it. And but it's really fun. It's a 5-day camp, and for me, it's been exciting because to help people and work with musicians, that's really fun. But I've also gotten a chance to play with some really amazing people because of it. Because we're the counselors, then they've got 2 major headliners each night, each camp. So I've got to work with Jeff Beck and Sammy Hagar, Brian Wilson, and
Yeah.
Joe Perry, and Roger Daltrey. All these guys, we get to play with them because
That's fun.
we're the band for them, and then the campers, they get to play with them as well. That's part of the deal.
Wow.
But for us counselors, it's really awesome to play with these guys because they're all amazing, and so I'm looking forward to the next one I can get to. I can't always do them, but
Right.
I really enjoy doing them. They're a
But
lot
they're
of
fun.
fun.
And where are they? Like in what
They
states?
they were in Las Vegas for a long time. They had a building out there, and they were located there. People would travel to Vegas, and they kind of ended that now, and it's back in L.A. now. When Rock Camp first started, it was like actually it was a mobile camp. They would go and do a camp in New York City or do one in Atlanta or wherever they would do it. That got to be that's hard.
Yeah.
So-
Well, to get all the talent out to a new city, to a
it's
different
hard,
place. And I can
because
see
they've
that.
got building and rooms and equipment and all that stuff.
Right.
So they were located in Vegas for a long time, and they moved now back to L.A. And it's kind of cool because when you get to perform, where the campers get to perform live in front of a live audience, now in L.A. they do it at the Whiskey. which
Wow.
is really cool.
Very cool.
Very cool for them.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Because that was legendary.
A lot of history.
Whiskey a go.
Tons of history.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being on
All
the
right,
show.
Henry.
I appreciate
Good
it.
to see you.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see anybody these days.
That's right. I'm glad to wake up in the morning.
Hey,
Yeah.
you
I was like, but then I usually go back to sleep. You know.
Well, thank you so
Just
much.
to make sure I'm still
Good
there.
luck with your show. I love the new room. And this is beautiful.
Yeah, this is
and
awesome.
this is